I've seen friends that
Kentuckians just have this sort of contrarian bone in our body that we're born with, and you can't tell us what to do.
I've seen friends that are really in a moral dilemma of like, my parents are like gods to me, and everything we believe in they threw out the window instantly for Donald Trump.
Did you ever hear of the Kentucky Wildcats?
My name is Mike Combs. I live in Alexandria, Kentucky. My wife, Bonnie, a high school sweetheart. We have one son, Alex. I own a self-storage business. Prior to that, I owned a packaging supply company, had a lot of success with that and different things.
Alexandria, Kentucky, where businessman Mike Combs resides, is a suburb of northern Kentucky and just a stone's throw away from Cincinnati. Aptly dubbed the top of the South, northern Kentucky runs along the Ohio River and is made up of 3 counties: Campbell, Kenton, and Boone.
They're swing counties, particularly Campbell County and Kenton County, because they're more urbane with Covington and Newport. Boone County is more rural and suburban in flavor and has a larger Republican footprint than the other 2.
And it's swing counties exactly like those, and the people who live in them, that both parties are trying to win beyond Kentucky in races up and down the ballot this November.
Why a Republican versus a Democrat? Mostly because the people I was around at that time were mostly, almost exclusively Republican. If you remember when George Bush ran for office,
the great strength of this unbelievable land lies in the hearts and souls of loving and decent and caring citizens who've heard the universal call.
He called it a compassionate conservative, that you had to approach maybe social policy with a fiscal responsibility, but still therein a responsibility. The noise that's argued about today overall are divisive rather than solution finding. I really kind of get offended when you say the 2020 election was stolen. The guy that ran the elections in Campbell County is a Republican. So are you implying that he's part of the VASC? It's like, no.
In 2016, Trump carried the state by 30 points with 62.5% of the vote. And 4 years later, it was the same story, with Trump beating Biden, this time by 26 points. But what's surprising for Kentucky, and this region in particular, is not its affinity for Donald Trump, but its fondness for Democratic Governor Andy Beshear, who just won his second term in November, defeating Republican Daniel Cameron.
Thank you, Kentucky!
And Beshear is not an outlier. Kentuckians often favor Democrats in gubernatorial elections. In fact, there have only been 2 Republican governors in Kentucky over the past 53 years.
Governor Beshear has been able to set the example of how to lead authentically with holding true to your values, but also being able to compromise and seeing the nuance of an issue.
The guy's doing a great job. He really is doing a great job, and he's personable. I would have no qualms going up to him and saying hello to him.
He comes from a Democratic dynasty in Kentucky. His father was governor for 8 years, was attorney general, was lieutenant governor, was a member of the state legislature. And so they know the Beshear name and they know the Beshear family.
The counties where Beshear is most popular are Jefferson and Fayette, which are home to Louisville and Lexington, the state's largest cities. But he's also done quite well in northern Kentucky, taking 2 of the 3 counties, Kenton and Campbell, by over 5 points in 2023. Trump won those very same counties in 2020 by over 18 points.
I think a lot of people that voted for Trump, part of the reason they voted for him wasn't necessarily they agreed with his policies. It wasn't because he was a good guy. It was they knew what they were getting. They didn't feel like he was hiding anything from them. And I think Governor Beshear is exactly like that. He's transparent. You know what you're getting with him.
You and I together have an opportunity.
In last November's gubernatorial election, the strategy for Cameron was to tie President Biden to Beshear, but that didn't seem to stick, as many GOP voters and the like just don't see them as two sides of the same coin.
I probably don't see Beshear as bad as Biden. I just don't have any respect at all for Joe Biden.
No, I think you have to take every political candidate of any party on their own merits.
Bravo.
But one accomplishment of President Biden's that Beshear has tied himself to is the 2021 bipartisan infrastructure law, which resulted in over $1 billion in funding for Ohio and Kentucky.
Here in northern Kentucky, the I-75 bridge never made it off the ground when it was all Republican all the way through. And now it's being done without tolls being put into place.
The money will go towards a companion to the I-75 bridge, also known as the Brent Spence Bridge. Construction is expected to begin in 2024.
And good evening tonight from Kentucky. It is difficult to put into words what we have witnessed here. The scope of the devastation just unimaginable.
Beshear guided the state through two catastrophic storms. First in 2021, when a deadly tornado swept through western Kentucky.
To the people of western Kentucky, we're not going anywhere.
Then, 7 months later, parts of eastern Kentucky were decimated by flooding that killed dozens.
It's an extraordinary time that somebody would take that office and deal with COVID and then have the natural disasters that hit this state.
I think the lesson for national level Democrats is to really focus on policy. Remove ourselves from that nationalized storyline that takes the headlines on the news and bring it back to those kitchen table issues. That sounds simplistic, but that's really it.
Hi, are you Brian?
I think my generation has some issues that have more Democratic leading that don't really get talked about, and that is long-term care, health care. It's a system that's fraught with need of reform in a big way. I think that has an appeal mostly to a Democrat platform, and I think addressing that issue for folks like me, I think that's a real good talking point.
As the 2024 election approaches, Combs and many other Republicans have a decision to make. Back Joe Biden, ride it out with Trump, or find another Republican candidate to support.
Is Nikki Haley one of those possibilities? It seems like right now they're all playing for a second place position, waiting for the calamities that he's facing hit him, and then now they got the inside track. I would consider it at that point. I'd like to still believe I'm a Republican, but things and recent events in recent years, if you're not in that thing, you get labeled pretty quick, like the term rhino. After a while, you just say, I'm just unplugging for a while, but still a Republican. I haven't tuned it up.
Kentucky